Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Ainur Robin. My last student number is 88. I would like to deliver and explain the analysis from the thesis from Darti and Andi Asmawati. The title is Analyzing Students' Difficulties Toward Listening Comprehension. Okay, before we going to the next page, the next page is the contents include abstract, background, literature review, research methodology, result and discussion, and then the last is conclusion. Okay, the abstract. The aim of this study was to find out the problems encountered in the student in listening comprehension. Descriptive method was used to analyze and to find the solution about the problems. The research was conducted in State Islamic University of Alauddin Makassar. The population of this study was second semester students of English Education Department of Tarbiyah and Teacher Training Faculty academic year 2016 until /2017. There were 37 students as the subject in this study. Data were gathered by questionnaire and interview, while observation during listening was used to confirm students' answer. The result of analyzing students' difficulties toward listening comprehension showed that listening is a very difficult skill for students who study foreign language. It was based on three factors influencing their listening. They were listening material, listener factor, and physical setting. Therefore, accent, pronunciation, speed of speech, insufficient vocabulary, different accent of the speakers, lack of concentration, and bad quality of recording were the major problems encountered by students' English Education Department. Understanding students' difficulties enabled the lecturer to help the students developing the effective learning. The teacher should the effective learning strategies and ultimately improve their listening. Solution to overcome the problems were the teacher should adapt and improve listening material, activate students' vocabulary, give the students variety of accent while practice listening in language laboratory, and then improve their pronunciation by training from native speakers, putting students' knowledge about the topic, give some strategy in listening, and always motivate students. The solutions were made as a suggestion for the lecturers. Okay, now we are going to the background. Listening is an essential part of English as foreign language. It seems like the other skills such as writing, reading, and speaking. Listening is very important skill because it is most widely used in daily life. Learning listening will help us to improve speaking skills considerably. People need to hear various types of English repeatedly and continuously if they want to communicate properly, meaningful, and naturally. It means that without hearing, people can't acquire language because listening provides language input. As Ross in Hein 2015, State listening as foreign language learning is paramount importance since it provides language input. As an input skills, listening plays a crucial role in students' language development. Okay, and then we are going to the next page is next content is review literature review. Hamuda Hamuda 2013 found in his research entitled An Investigation of Listening Comprehension Problems Encountered by Saudi Students in the EL Listening Classroom. This research used quantitative and qualitative methods of data collection. This study was carried out with the participation of 64-year students majoring in English language and translation at Qasim University. Their age ranged from 20 to 22 years old. Listening comprehension seems to be the weakest skills, and students encountered various kinds of listening problems. Data was gathered by means of questionnaires and interview. The research found the accent, pronunciation, speech, insufficient vocabulary, and different accent of speaker, lack of vocabulary, anxiety, and bad quality of recording were the major listening comprehension problem encountered by EFL Saudi learners. And the second is Abidin 2013. In his research entitled English Listening Comprehension Problems of Students from China learning English in Malaysia, the research used a qualitative method to collect data from Chinese students taking English Listening Comprehension or ELC in University Science Malaysia USM. This study is research report related to the problems encountered by China's students in ELC learning. The interview was conducted to investigate students' perspective through main question concerning the problem of the Chinese students in their ELC self-learning process in 3 steps, which include the pre-listening, while listening, and post-listening. Findings from this study is Finding from this study indicate that the main problem faced by Chinese students in the lack of prior knowledge in English vocabulary, and this inhibits their understanding in the listening process. Moreover, the differences in the accent of the native speakers prohibit the proper understanding of listening content. The short span of concentration and the learning habits of Chinese students were discussed as problem of the ELC learning. The third is Anandapong 2011 mentioned in mentioned in his research entitled A Study of English Listening Problems and Listening Proficiency of Business at Bangkok University. A study of English listening problems and listening proficiency of business at Bangkok University. So this study was conducted with 30 of business students at Bangkok University with the aim investigation their English listening problem and listening proficiency. Questionnaires, IELTS tests, and interview were used in this study as tools to collect data. As a result, the data was analyzed by using SPSS. The results of the study revealed as students that main reason caused listening problem for the students is the listening text. However, the factors that mostly cause listening problems were lack of practicing listening skills and lack of exposure to different kinds of listening materials. And then fourth, Yusuf 2000, 2000, 2006 mentioned in his research entitled Listening Comprehension Difficulties as Perceived. The study investigated lecture comprehension problem of first year students listening to lectures in FL subject matter classroom. Data was collected regarding the lecture comprehension difficulties of these students by means of a short open-ended questionnaire and interview. The subject of the study were 51st year students majoring in English, their second semester at Al Almaj Almajmah College of Education. They were made admitted to English department on the merit of acquiring 80% of more on the school certificate examination. The analysis of the data provide an index of linguistic, conceptual, discourse, acoustic, environmental, and psychological variables that hinder effective comprehension. The result of study have implication for both EFL teachers and subject matter lecturers in the particular setting obstacles that impact comprehension, which conducted as well in similar FL tertiary levels. They discuss several obstacles and impact comprehension that are divided into the three main areas: listener factors, speaker factors, and text factors. The next content is research methodology. Descriptive method was used to analyze and to find solution about the listening problems. The researcher used observation, questionnaire, and interview to gain data. Observation was used to confirm students' answer about questionnaire. It was distributed to know students' difficulties. Interview process was held to know deeply about students' difficulties. Then all of the result, questionnaire and interview were analyzed. Okay, we are going to the next content is result and discussion. From result and discussion, from number one is the analysis of the data collected from questionnaire. Listening problems relate to the content of the listening text. There are problems pertinent on familiar word. The first question were asked to know unfamiliar word including jargon and idioms. interfered the learner's listening comprehension. There were 22 from 37 students have responded unfamiliar that unfamiliar words, including jargon and idioms, interfered with their listening comprehension. It means that vocabulary is a big obstacle to most students in listening comprehension. The students did not know what are the difference of jargon and idioms. Their practice in listening to limit because they learning listening only in a laboratory. When they learn about listening comprehension, it became their problems pertinent to unfamiliar word. Number 2, problem pertinent, poor grammar. The second question, we asked to know whether a complex grammatical structure interfered with the learner's listening comprehension. There are 26 from 37 students have responded. The difficult grammatical structure interfered their listening comprehension. The students asked were points of difficult grammatical structures caused much trouble to students. It means that know about the structural component of the text most important in listening comprehension. Some students found difficulties because they poor of grammar, so their ability to listen complex sentence to bed. Understand complex sentence spend much time also. The number 3, problem pertinent to understand every single word in the text. Based on the respondents' answer about the difficulties to understand every single word in the speech, there were 25 students said yes and only 12 students said no. Students cannot answer the question from the speaker because they try to understand every single word. Actually, it is unnecessary and impossible because when they are trying hard to get every individual word can waste their time to answer and make them lose focus. Number 4, problem pertinent length of spoken text. Both, both vocabulary and difficulty of grammatical structures, the length of spoken text was one of main reasons why the student difficult to understand most of the talk. Based clearly, based on the 37 respondents, there were only 7 students answered no this question. This result clearly shows that length spoken text can be one major factor interfere the learner's learning comprehension because it distracts their concentration. Long spoken text for the student also. Therefore, it is possible to infer that long spoken text interfere learners' listening comprehension. Then number 5, problem pertinent to interpret meaning of spoken text. Long spoken text was one factor distract concentration of the students during listening comprehension. It is also make the student difficult to interpret what their speaker said. The result of the result the result of 37 students show that there were 27 students answer yes and 10 students answer no. Thus, know about the interpret and meaning of spoken text very important in listening comprehension. Students found difficult to interpret meaning of spoken text because they limit English vocabulary and there were many unfamiliar topics. Number 6, problem pertinent fatigue when listening long spoken text. Foreign language learners felt fatigue and distracted when they listen long spoken text because they tried to understand unfamiliar words, unfamiliar sounds. The result from 25 respondents had answered yes and 12 students answered no. Thus, fatigue distracts students' attention from interpret meaning of the text and made them lose concentration. Listening long spoken text many listening long spoken text make the listener feel tired because they try to understand the unfamiliar sounds, lexes, and syntax from for long stretches of time. The learners might miss the text also when there were there was a lapse in lapse in concentration. And then the number 7, problem pertinent to unfamiliar topic. From the result of questionnaire, unfamiliar topic is one of students' difficulties. There were 27 students have responded yes, and the students' response indicate that many students find difficult in listening when the topic is unfamiliar. It means that the students construct their understanding basis on their experience. Sometimes there were dialogue and talks about different topics such as economy, so many students do not know any of the words related to economy. The problems may affect them the problems may affect them because they lack of read about that. They had to increase their lexical knowledge by reading and listening. The number 8 problem pertinent to use reduce from reduce from reduce reduce forms are an important thing listening comprehension, but all students did not understand about that. It can be known from the result of the questionnaire. From 37 students, they were 28 students answered yes, and only 9 answered no. Many students answered yes because they poor about grammar structure. It shows the students need to improve their learning about reduced from in order to make them easy to answer questions in listening comprehension. And at number 9, problem pertinent long conversation. From the from the response of the questionnaire shows that only 11 students have responded no in this session. It means that long conversation is students' difficulties in listening comprehension. And then number 10, problem pertinent background knowledge. Background knowledge is an important thing can influence student listening comprehension, even if they have mastered of skills. Lack of background knowledge can cause reduce their listening comprehension. The result, students who answer yes, lack of the knowledge about that. It shows that background of knowledge is very important thing to get meaning of the listening text. Okay, from point B, listening problems relate to the listener. Number 1 is problem pertinent to inability of understanding listening. In listening problems relate to listener is students' difficulties is in listening not only from the material of the listening but also of lack of English language skills from listeners. Understanding listening also need concentration when the students feel nervous or anxious they cannot concentration. The problems include these listener factors were fear before doing listening, feel worried, their attention difficult to recognize signal, lose focus, encountering unknown word, lose concentration, and then listening without transcript. Number one is problem pertinent to inability of understanding listening. Before doing listening comprehension tasks, there were 23 students have responded they fear that they can understand what they will hear. Lack of confidence the students before doing listening comprehension because they have no much knowledge and lack of practice in listening. They were shy with her friends also when they don't understand something, and it is the lecturer's job to arouse the students' interest, help them gain confidence, and make sure that they can achieve in success in listening with a limited amount of English. It means that the lecturer have to find good strategy to make the class enjoyable and relaxing. And number two, problem pertinent anxiety. Based on questionnaire, there were 33 students have responded that they feel worried if they don't understand spoken text. The students panic when they fail to understand spoken text because they fear get low scoring in the listening. These figures point point these these figures point out this factor creates psychological problems of the learners. The lecturer had to motivate them in order to make them feel relaxed during listening. Then problem number three, problem pertinent to unclear pronunciation. All our students from 37 people have responded that they difficult in listening because unclear pronunciation. They recognized the words in written text but they couldn't understand what they hear. It means that unclear pronunciation of some speakers is also considered as a source of listening problem. Many students said that they were not successful since it was impossible for them to know what the speaker said because they lack of pronunciation ability. They need to practice the words with pronunciation clearly. The number four, problem pertinent intonation and intonation of the speaker. I'm sorry. To know what the speaker said, the student must paying attention to intonation of the speaker. But in reality, many students do not paying attention of the speaker. The result from 37 students, there were 3 students paying attention to the speaker. It became a big problem for non-native language because intonation very important to comprehension. Many of students said Many students said that it was not important to understand what the speaker said. Number 5, problem pertaining use signal words. Signal words help the listener to grasp the thread of thought in the material. The listener can predict what may come next by using signal words. The result of the questionnaire shows that the students' difficulties to recognize signal words from 37 students, there were 32 students said it. Number 6, problem pertinent to lose focus when get an expected answer. From table, there were 29 students from 37 respondents lose focus when get an expected answer in their mind. This problem will interrupt their listening because they can unable to concentrate and miss their listening. When they understand what the speaker said, when they try to looking for the answer, they spend much time to choose the correct answer. Finally, they miss next question. Number seven, problems pertinent to use of unknown words. When en- when encountering an unknown word, many students stop listening and think about the meaning of new word. There were 20 students said yes and 17 students answered no. This problem interrupting their listening and make them miss some information in listening. There were so many unfamiliar words in listening comprehension. When they listening long conversation and talk, they try to understand all of the speakers said to get the correct answer. They when and then when they got an unknown unfamiliar words, they focus to find the meaning that words. Number 8. Problem pertinent to inform meaning. All of the listeners have a problem to infer meaning in listening comprehension best. And in the base of questionnaire, there were 24 students have responded say they difficult to infer meaning while listening. Students did not know how infer meaning because they have no much knowledge about listening and they limit English vocabulary. The students have to know how to infer meaning because understanding spoken language is essentially an inferential process based on perception. Number 9. Problem pertinent unable to concentrate when answer and listen at same time. There were only 30 they were only 13 students said yes and 24 said no. It means that a few students find difficulties to concentrate their answer and listen at the same time. It was become a limit time of English listening comprehension test. They did not have time to think what the correct answer. It shows that the students were not able to concentrate because they searched the answer at that time at the at the same time listen and listen at the same time and then listen to the dialogue. And number 10, problem pertinent to hear new words. Problem pertinent hear new words. There were 24 students have responded. Students lose concentration when they hear new words in listening. They lose their concentration because they think too much to find a better answer. It shows that the students need good strategy to so that they will be able to keep concentration. And then number 11, problems pertinent to recognize the word. They were 33 said yes and only 4 said no. Most all students have responded that they unable to recognize the word because the way speaker pronounce the word were pronounced differently from it was learned. At this point, the listener may not recognize it as the same words, or or may even miss its existence completely. The different culture may be influence this problem. Number 12. Problem pertinent to predict what would come next. There were 26 students answered yes and there were 11 answered no. It shows that the students find difficult to predict what would come next. Well, would come next. The students who encounter this problem will interfere their listening. Number 13. Problem pertinent to memory. Students' response shows that there were 24 said yes and 13 said no. It means that the students find difficult to quickly remember about words that they have just heard. When they forget what they heard, they will spend too much time on translating and they can't know which answer is correct. It shows that remembering of what just hear in listening very important thing. Number 14. Problem pertinent question. There were 27 students said yes and 10 said no. It shows the students found difficult answer question which require other than short answer. Number 15. Problem pertinent lack of transcript. The result shows that the majority of the students have responded they found difficult when listening English without transcript. From 37 students, there were 28 said yes and then only 9 said no. Students answered yes because they limit English vocabulary and limit knowledge about English. The lack of practice without transcript also make difficult to do it. It means that the transcript make them easy to check they have listened and to make them easy to check they have listened on the tape. Thus, they need to practice more and more listening without transcript because in listening tests like TOEFL, tests need comprehend without transcript. And C. Listening problem relate to physical setting. There are problem pertinent. Number 1. First, problem pertinent lose concentration because poor quality of recording. The result of questionnaire shows that there were 29 students said yes and 8 students said no. Many students have answered that poor quality of recording interfere their listening comprehension because they lose concentration. They cannot focus. They cannot focus. They cannot focus what the speaker said. Number 2. Problem pertinent of hesitation and pause. The result indicate that 32 students said yes and 5 students said no. It means that many students have responded that they found difficult to understand listening text which is full hesitation and pauses. It was because hesitation and pause will make them difficult to interpret meaning what the speaker said. Number 3. Problem pertinent of visual support. Lack visual support. There were 19 students said yes and 18 students said no. It shows that some students found difficult to understand spoken text without seeing the speaker's body language. When they see speaker's body language, they will be easy to interpret the meaning of the speaker said. Number 4. Problems pertinent to variety of accent. There were 32 students said yes and 5 students said no. It indicates that many students difficult to understand spoken text because variety accent of the speaker. The students felt confused with British English and American English because the pronunciation and intonation are quite different. It showed that students had to learn not only English language but also variation of it. Number 5. Problem pertinent speed of delivery. Speakers speak too fast in factor that interfere students' comprehension in listening. Table indicates that there were 33 students said yes and 4 students said no. Point out that when the speakers speak too fast, it's difficult for them to understand what is being said, even if the words are familiar for them. Native speakers speak too fast, make the students sometimes hear all the words a single unit. At this point, difficulty with speed delivery because unfamiliarity with listening to native speakers. Students need to practice their listening by listening native speakers. And then number 6, problem pertinent lack of pauses. Lack of pauses in is also considered as source of listening problems. Result shows that there were 31 students said yes and 6 students said no. Many students found difficult to understand listening take when the speaker does not pause long enough. Number 7. Problem pertinently inability get repeat. According to the student's response, the problem that interfere their listening comprehension was inability get repeat. Nearly 30 and nearly 30 of 37 students difficult of difficult to understand the spoken text if they are unable to get repeat. When they get repeat, their listening will make easy to complete idea and listening, but the fact that the listener cannot make the speakers repeat what they have just said. In listening comprehension test, there are only ones to listen one question. Decision to replay in the recording, not in the hands of listeners. Accordingly, the students need to practice more and more listening to the test without replay the recording. And then number 8, problem pertinent noise around. Noise around listening test is an obstacle to comprehension. The result indicates were there were 29 students said yes and 8 students said no. When noise in the room and the poor of noise in the room and poor preparation of laboratory will make the students can't concentrate can, cannot students cannot concentration on listening to the recording material. It is sure that noises around will not have good result in listening. And number 9, problem pertinent poor quality tape or discs. Another problem connected with listening was poor quality of the tapes. The data indicate that were 22 students said yes and 15 students said no. Majority students have responded that the difficulties that they faced in listening comprehension because poor quality tapes or discs. Poor quality of tape will make sounds of the speakers is not clear and make us lose concentration. And then number 10, problem pertinent poor equipment. The result also shows there were 27 said yes and 10 said no. It means that not only poor quality of the tapes disturbed listening comprehension, but also unclear sounds resulting from poor quality equipment. And then the next content is the result of interview. There are problems affect listening comprehension is in the problem affect listening comprehension. The first question were asked to know the problems affect student listening comprehension in as the listeners. The result showed all of the interviewee have various answers. Almost all of them found difficult in listening comprehension because they poor knowledge of grammar and lack of vocabulary. Other problems are length of content material, speakers spoke too fast and unclear pronunciation. And point B, problems toward listening material. Second question were asked to know what made them difficult in content material of listening comprehension. The result of the second question showed all of participants respond that the difficulties of this the difficulties in content material are unfamiliar topic and long conversation of listening. There were only 2 students said the difficulties in listening material are variety, accent, and grammar rules of the sentence. Point C. Problems to answer the question during listening. There were some problems the students cannot answer the question from the tapes. Among these, this third questions were asked to know the problems encountered by students answer during listening. There were some problems students can answer the question from the tapes. Among these, difficult to catch meaning about because lack of vocabulary and poor grammar knowledge. They also lose concentration because focus to know unknown word. Consequently, they missed what the speaker said in the next question and so on. So they felt panic and make them difficult to answer the question. And point D, problems lose concentration during listening. Fourth question were asked to know what problems make students lose concentration during listening comprehension. Students' answers showed that average of them said the problem make them lose concentration is noise in laboratory. The other problems is if the students can understand what the speaker said, this interrupts their heard. They heard. It means that failure concentration It means that failure concentrate will make them missing what the speaker said. Point E, problems use personal experience. The fifth question were asked to know students' personal experience to answer the question from speakers. Students' response indicate that all of them Students' response indicates that all of them have used their personal understanding to complete meaning what the speaker said and to answer the question. It means the prior knowledge is a powerful and very frequently used to catch the meaning of listening comprehension tasks. Okay, we are going to the page of conclusion and suggestion. In this conclusion, All of students are unable to comprehend listening text. There are 10 problems in student self-learning that were found analyzing students' difficulties. They were lack of vocabulary, poor grammar mastery, accent, pronunciation, lack of concentration, speed of speech, anxiety, noisy, inability to apply listening strategy, bad quality of recording. It is correct that the problems in listening comprehension faced by students not only from the listeners themselves but also from the content material and environment of listening comprehension. Hence, students have to study hard, and have more and more practice to improve their listening comprehension. And the suggestion based on results study formally listening is one of difficult skill for students as foreign language learners, even though they are students in English education department. Although students encountered various kind various kinds of problems in listening comprehension, they need to study hard to become better listeners, because listening is one of the important skills that it provides input for the learners, not only in the language learning but also in the daily communication. Accordingly, the researchers offers the following suggestion. Number one is students as listeners. Students need to train their listening at home intensively in order to help them overcome their problems about topic in listening. They need to always listening also various accent by listening to English songs or watching TV movie, and it will help them to improve their vocabulary automatically. When the learning process asks the lecturer when the learning process asks the lecturer about clarification, the answer of question, and let the lecturer know if you don't understand something. Furthermore, don't forget to apply listening strategies to which become the main point if you want to success in listening comprehension test. Keep positive thinking of your listening comprehension test. Point B, to the lecture of English. English lecture should prepare the students to know the importance of communication skill and put a good strategy to teach them, such a role play. It will train them to answer. The lecturer also need to be aware about students' psychological. Both anxieties, boredom will interrupt in their learning, and it indicates as a barrier in their listening comprehension test. The lecturer also should become more to teach in order to make the students become a better listener, and to the reader, in order to get more representative in order to get more representative result. a replication study a replication study with the broader population is suggested, and giving more attention in using instrumental which are used for students at university. It is also suggested that analyzing the result of the data have to finish after just know you have taken, in order to make you fresh remember what you have done while research done. And then don't forget to take note and photo during research. Okay, that's all my presentation about analyzing English comprehensions toward listening comprehensions, and thank you for the time. That is all for me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.